All eyes on the presidents of the US and China toasting to what they call the most important bilateral relationship in the world. Donald Trump and Xi Jinping wrapping up the first day of a historic summit with a lavish state banquet and a reciprocal invitation to the White House in September. The American leader receiving a grand welcome this morning at the Great Hall of the People, where China rolled out the red carpet for Mr. Trump and his entourage of senior officials and top business executives. Now, talks lasted about 2 hours, the Chinese leader urging for deeper cooperation and stronger ties, while the American president predicted a fantastic future for bilateral relations.
中美两国能不能跨越所谓的修昔底德陷阱，开放大陆关系的新范式？能不能携手应对全球挑战，为世界做更多的贡献？
You and I have known each other now for a long time. In fact, the longest relationship of our two countries that any president and president has had, and it's to me an honor. We've had a fantastic relationship. We've gotten along. When there were difficulties, we worked it out.
Thorny issues remain, one of them Taiwan. President Xi warning President Trump that missteps on Taiwan could push their two countries into conflict. But some common ground over the ongoing waterway blockade in the Middle East. The White House saying both sides had agreed the Strait of Hormuz must remain open and that Iran should never be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon. Well, let's get more now from our correspondents. They are standing by in the US and China. Si Hui joining us from Beijing, Nick Harper reporting for CNA from Washington, D.C. Si Hui, if we could just start with you. The leaders wrapping up day one there with a positive reframing of ties between the US and China. What did Xi Jinping have to say, and talk to us about the significance?
Well, Mr. Xi has hailed this a new era for U.S.-China relationship. And analysts tell me that the most significant part of his speech was that both sides, Mr. Trump and Mr. Xi, they have a new status of their relationship, calling this a constructive, strategic, stable relationship. Analysts say that this marks the first time in recent years that they're defining their relationship. This does not remove the rivalry between the both of them, but it signals intent and it manages the boundaries, and so that this relationship doesn't lose control and spiral out of control like what we've seen in recent weeks as well as years. And so this is a crucial part of that speech by Mr. Xi. At the state banquet, both sides had called this visit a historic visit. Mr. Trump calling this a special visit. Mr. Xi saying that the progress of China is compatible with making America great again.
我们一致认为，中美关系是当今世界最重要的双边关系，只能搞好，不能搞坏。两国合则两利，斗则俱伤，应该成为伙伴而不是对手。
We had extremely positive and productive conversations and meetings today with the Chinese delegation earlier. And this evening is another cherished opportunity to discuss among friends some of the things that we discussed today, all good for the United States and for China. And it was a great honor to be with you. Please.
While these diplomatic dinners do not resolve any kind of existing problems between the U.S. and China, it does create an atmosphere of trust and political space to manage those differences. And so overall, the first day is really about stabilizing relationships.
All right. So way to Nick in Washington, D.C. for us. Nick, the Iran war, Washington saying that both sides have come to an agreement to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. Is that significant from the point of view of Washington, where you are?
Yeah, potentially very significant, Jill. This is a potential area where the two sides are willing to cooperate beyond the usual areas that they would be working together on, essentially looking at foreign policy, but from a mutual perspective. The US has been pushing this to China really as a win-win situation. If the war were to end, it would be good news for the US and for China, because China receives much of its oil from the Middle East region, and much of that has been stuck because the Strait of Hormuz has been effectively closed, and there is that US naval blockade on Iranian ports. So really trying to present this to China as being beneficial to them. Bear in mind, though, that this is just from the US perspective, the US readout of these meetings. We haven't had confirmation from China, but according to the US, China agreed with that US position that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, and also agreed that the Strait of Hormuz must remain open. The US also saying that China is looking at potentially buying American oil as a way to lessen its own dependence on oil from Iran. Before this trip, Donald Trump said that he didn't need China's help in ending the war with Iran. That was potentially posturing. And if China is able to use its influence with Tehran, it would certainly be welcome news for the US president. So potentially significant from the US perspective, ending that conflict that seems very difficult for Trump to end, but also presenting that possibility of extra areas where both countries can work together on mutually beneficial outcomes.
Yeah, thanks for that, Nick. And Si Hui, if we come back to you, we have to talk about Taiwan. It is the biggest flashpoint and high on the agenda. What message was China sending on this topic?
Well, the Taiwan issue definitely featured high on China's agenda. Mr. Xi saying that the Taiwan issue is the most important issue between China and the U.S. And he had cautioned the U.S. in terms of taking extra precaution when handling Taiwan issues. And he also said that Taiwan independence and cross-strait peace, these do not go well together, just like fire and water. Analysts told me that China is trying to get something out of the U.S., is trying to push for this. And that's especially after writing on the fact that Kuomintang's chief had visited China recently, and also saying that the U.S. is currently distracted with the Middle East. And so it believes that it has some leeway in achieving something out of this Taiwan issue. But it is crucial to also note that the Taiwan issue was not mentioned in the White House readout. Mr. Trump had said that the visit was great, but again did not mention anything on Taiwan. But I just read on at a report that Mr. Trump is likely to address the Taiwan issue in the coming days.
All right. And finally, Nick, we looked at some progress on the business front with the Chinese president promising greater market access for American companies and vice versa. What does this signal about potential cooperation between the two countries in that area?
Well, it seems to be moving in the right direction. We're still waiting for many of the specifics, including really the headline announcement of exactly what deals have been done. But we have heard from the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. He's been giving an interview to CNBC in which he's been speaking about the trade issues. He's saying that he is expecting to see a large order from China for Boeing aircraft, potentially numbering about 500. He said he's also expecting more purchases from China on non-sensitive areas. Now, that could include agricultural products. We're expecting purchases of US beef and US soybeans as well. Scott Bessent said that they'd already discussed the possibility of creating that Board of Trade and Board of Investment to help move things forward beyond this summit itself. And Bessent also saying that AI had been discussed, saying that there was a wholesome dialogue. And he said that that only took place because the US is in the lead when it comes to artificial intelligence. However, he did not confirm that the US has cleared the way for 10 Chinese firms to buy Nvidia's second most powerful AI chip. Remember, the US has placed export curbs on many of those very powerful chips going to China. And in terms of the CEOs, this business entourage that Donald Trump has taken with him, more than a dozen from some of the biggest US companies, many of them are suggesting that there have been positive, productive conversations. Elon Musk from Tesla said there were wonderful discussions, saying many good things were achieved, and Jensen Huang of Nvidia saying that the meetings had gone well, but still waiting for the specifics, really the nitty-gritty details of exactly what has been agreed to by both sides.
Absolutely, but for now, thank you so much to Si Hui reporting live from Beijing, Nick Harper from CNA Washington, for CNA from Washington, D.C. Thank you.